Live from America's heartland, this is the Daily Truth Report with your host, Noah Christopher.
Welcome back to the Daily Truth Report. And, joining us today is a return guest, Chad Stewart. So happy to have him here. Chad, before I bring you fully on, I just want to read a couple quotes here. Chad's the author of the Britfield series, an incredible new book series and movie series and play series that he's doing everything. We're going to talk all about it, but I want you to hear what people are saying about this book series. Reminiscent of Les Mis and Sherlock Holmes, it's like James Bond, but with a bigger purpose. An epic series for the modern reader. It's like C.S. Lewis and Dan Brown combined, up there with Lord of the Rings. Perfect for anyone in your life. Never read anything like it. Felt like I was in a movie. Better than Harry Potter. It just goes on and on and on. So I love what he's doing, and we're really happy to have him back on the show. Chad, thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you. And that was a great intro, and I really appreciate it. So.
Yeah, well, I truly do love what you're doing with this. You've kind of created this whole new genre of live action happening in modern day times, good for adults and kids alike, teaching actual real world things. So I love it. I love having people on here and getting good messages out, and you're just getting bigger every time we talk to you. So for people who don't know anything about it, let's maybe back up and start at square one. We've had John before and we've talked about it, but people don't get a chance to catch every show. So tell us who you are and what this book series is, and what is the world of Britfield?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and I will. And I'll just do a quick overview and apologize for those that have heard it. But it just gives you kind of a quick update. But, I'm originally from Newport Beach, California, back east, Wellesley, Massachusetts for 16 years. And that was a big change for me. Southern California to East Coast, big deal. But it was cool, and I liked it. Lots of history there. And I did my undergraduate in British literature, European history. And so people are always saying, oh, what do you do with that? And for me, you build a media empire. That's what I did with it. Went on to postgraduate and graduate work, and then actually got into investment banking, worked for 3 Fortune 100 companies, but was not a fit for me at all, really. I just was not into that sort of mundane numbers game, if you will, or sales game. I really wanted to do something fun, something creative. I wanted to have impact. And I think we're all like that, right? We're all born creative. And suddenly when we grow up, we're doing like great pictures out of crowns. And it's like, we get to about 30 or 40. It's like, I'd like my crowns back. You know what I mean? Right. I'd like my musical instruments back. You know what I mean? I want my fort back. I want my tools back. I want to do something fun and creative. And that's really the driver behind everything that we do with Britfield. So about 12 years ago, I had an idea. I was in a boring seminar in Providence, Rhode Island, and I think it was insurance. And it's when I got the idea for Britfield and Lost Crown, based on literally a circle, 3 lines, a basket, a boy and a girl, and I wrote The Boy and the Balloon. And I thought, that'd be a fun adventure, wouldn't it? And I was thinking England, British literature major. I lived in England off and on for about 2 years, really toured all of England. Love it. Love the country. And again, too, people always ask me, why is book 1 in England? If you were writing Britfield and Lost Crown, it might start in Spain or Australia. You know what I mean? It's like you write about what you know, you write about what you love. And I just thought the British Empire was really a cool place to sort of start this. And there's a bigger thread, if we want to get into it, of why actually that is so important with the British monarchy, the ruling powers, MI6, who started the CIA. I mean, oh my gosh, the list goes on forever. But and what Britain and the Tavistock Institute, what's that, right? And why does that work out of British Empire? And right, I mean, just go on and on and on. But it's like there's a reason for everything that technically, at least that I do. And so I sat down from that idea. I spent 4 years, 2,500 hours just to write book 1, Britfield and the Lost Crown, 384 pages. And then from concept and doodle to launching it, it was about 10 years, that long, just 10 years of raising money, of building the team, getting together the marketing plan, the business plan. I mean, nothing is overnight. And I know we live in this flash over substance and look at all these views this person has. Most of it's nonsense. Most of it doesn't mean anything. There are no overnight successes. Anything of real quality. And when I'm saying quality, I'm talking conservative quality, good stuff, family focused, values. Anything of that kind of quality takes time, and it takes a lot of time. And they always say overnight success takes between 1 to 2 decades. And the difference between a hobby and a profession, truthfully, is about 8,000 to 10,000 hours. And I've got, so far I've got probably 12,000, 14,000 hours just into the Britfield series. And so we launched it August 2019. And it was fun too. It was always part of my plan to do a national tour. book tour for book one. For a lot of reasons. One, it's a great grassroots network. Come right into, and it's like, why be in bookstores? I'll just go to my middle school group, in front of 200 students and say, hey, here's a book you want to read, right?
Very cool.
That's just smart marketing. It's just like, instead of hoping that they get to a Barnes and Noble down the aisle and find it in some corner. And so, but I also was really interested in just getting out into America more so, and really getting a feel of the landscape and the schools and the towns and the people, right? We hear about it all the time. We read about it all the time. Most of it too are extremely isolated incidences that they need to try to broadcast as if that's how we're all living and that's how we're all thinking, and that's BS. But with that said, so we kicked it off in August 2019. I drove 9,000 miles. I visited 23 states, presented to over 200 schools in front of more than 40 to 50,000 students, 4th through 8th usually, and big auditoriums of 300 to 400. I mean, can you imagine? It's like what? But it was fun. We really had it fine tuned, and it was a great presentation. And it wasn't just about the book. I wasn't there just to be promoting Britfield. I was really promoting an idea. And I shared with those 4th and 5th and 6th graders the exact same thing I just shared with your audience. I had this idea 10 years ago, and it took me 10 years of hard work, 8 to 10,000 hours to finally launch this. And so we talk a little bit about the series and stuff, and then we talk about other successes out there, the importance of creativity, bringing creativity back into the classroom, and the importance of storytelling, not just writing. Because I get that, like, when I'm 12 years old, I mean, writing's the last thing I was thinking about. So what does that have to do with me? But storytelling, that's a whole different ballgame, because everything you do is storytelling. The three most important skill sets in the world right now? It's creativity, storytelling, and it's creativity, communication, and storytelling. Not engineering, not mathematics, not technology, not all this other flash over substance crap nonsense. And don't get me wrong, there's aspects that are important, but there's just this push and push and push and push. And they've pushed creativity out of the classrooms, and they've done that by design over the last 30 to 40 years. We can get into that if you want. So anyway, and since then, it was fantastic. And it was unfortunate though, because in March 2020, guess what happened? And there I was, literally, and there I was, like, I was finally at the height of where I wanted to be. I wanted to get to the Midwest. I couldn't wait to drive through Kentucky and Indiana, Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio was like a breadbasket of homeschoolers and bookstores and you know what I mean? And then come back to New England, serendipity. But I was in Memphis, Tennessee, and all of a sudden all the schools started shutting down, and I literally had to turn around and drive back from Memphis, Tennessee, all the way to San Diego, California. And it's different when I'm driving there, right? I'm driving about 4 hours, and then you come into a town, and I'm doing some presentations, and have a night. I mean, for me, it's like, it's over. How fast can I get back to San Diego? And Texas is no easy state to just cruise through, and there's not a lot to see. But anyway, but we turned it around, and as we always do, you got to adapt and be nimble and be flexible and be smart. And so we turned it into virtual author visits, which were cool. In fact, we even went abroad, and we're doing, virtual author visits in Australia for the series and stuff. So, but I think what's great about the book and the book series, and what makes it so unique and impactful, and really this generation's book series, is number one, it takes place in present time. And that's very, very important, because you have a market right now that's saturated 95% with this post-apocalyptic, futuristic, scientific, world. And saturated with a lot of nonsense, witchcraft, demigods, superheroes, all that stuff. And on the surface, it seems fine and innocent enough. It isn't, and it's all by design. But it does three things to the kids that are reading these books, or even the adults. It disconnects them from reality, right? Number two, it makes them feel less than they are. If I just had a wand, if I just had magical powers, if I just had a cape, if I could just fly. Well, I think every child is amazing. I think every child is born with incredible talents, and every child is born creative, whether you think so or not. It's a gift from God. And so, and number three, they introduce just a lot of nonsense and toxic agendas, right? And this is in literature, this is in television, this is in movies. I mean, pretty much almost everything now is unwatchable. And we're watching the self-destruction of Hollywood. We have been for years. But anyway, so, I mean, what's great about Britfield, it takes place in present time. It's about family, friendship, loyalty, courage, hope. Takes place in present time, book one starts up in Yorkshire, Northern England, and then moves to Oxford, Windsor, London, and finally down to Canterbury. We can talk about that again, everything for reasons, everything by design. And as children are reading, as adults are reading it, they're learning about geography, art, architecture, culture, and history. And we hit the 4 C's: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration in every single book. And so we call it stealth education. And so as children are reading this book series, they're actually learning how to think again, if you can imagine, right? Because the characters, Tom and Sarah, are constantly faced with problems. And in order to overcome those problems, they discuss them. They think about it. They have to take risks. Sometimes they make the right decisions. Sometimes they make the wrong decisions and learn from it. It's like, well, we definitely won't do that again, or we can't trust that person. But it's just a typical type of stuff that we all go through life. But unfortunately, what you have with the literary market right now is, well, if you're in a problem, you wave a wand. Or what's that spell to get us out of this? And again, what does that do? What is it teaching your kids? Absolutely nothing. And those things are not healthy to have on the bookshelves or in the classroom. And
well, so Chad, you're exactly right. We just went to the movie theater to see Moana 2, the new Disney movie, and
nice,
it was fair enough.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. What is that symbol that they put throughout that whole thing?
Yeah. Where have I seen that symbol that stuck right in my face?
No joke. We'll just leave it there. But yeah. But I guess it was an entertaining movie, but everything you're saying is true. You got the demigod fighting the god with the girl who has the superpower and can control the ocean. And these are the movies that, this is what we put up on a pedestal and we go to see. And so that, and you know what? Guilty as charged, because we took our kids to go see it, and that's fine. Sure. But I love the opportunity. That's why I want to have you on the show, because I love that you're bringing that different option out there into the marketplace. And next time we can take them to go see your movie when it's in theaters.
No, amen. And I love what you said, because I'm offering an option, right? You're always going to be fighting good. There's always going to be good versus evil, light versus darkness. There's always going to be crap out there, but we need to start seeing some more quality content. And the reason why the movie's done so well, and again, I hate to see Disney have a success, wasn't because the movie was hands down tremendous, although it's probably well done and well written. I haven't seen it, won't see it, and it's done tremendously well, on the budget. But there's nothing else to see. So it's like, you want to do something fun with your kids, it's the holiday season and stuff. And
exactly.
Yeah. And so,
but anyway, I'm just going to put this up on the screen here. Let's see. Hang on one second. Get my button here. All right. So, in case anyone was wondering what Chad was referring to, I don't know, what is that? It looks
and the Disney signature.
Yes.
What are the 3 numbers I see in there?
Of course, yes. That font that has 3 different 6s in there.
Yeah, and what was the club he was a member of, and what level of a certain society was he? And interesting.
Well, sometimes I wonder if I just see conspiracies everywhere, but I saw that and I couldn't believe they plastered that all over the movie. But
and they love doing that. Yeah,
they do.
Yeah, but most people don't, and it's not just you. You get to a certain point of climbing down the rabbit hole and doing your own research. Like I've told other people, I've been relearning history for 12 years, and I was actually a history major, right? That was one of my drivers and stuff, and I've been relearning history. But you do get to that point where it sparks. You see it. You know what I mean? And you can't unsee it once you see it. And it is interesting. But anyway, we digress. So, so the book was great, a great success, Britfield Lost Crown. Very excited about the first of a 7-book series. And
so planned out from the beginning to be 7 books.
Yeah, not necessarily from the beginning. You know what I mean? The first book was really just to do something fun and creative. By the time I was done, I'm like, well, I've got a series here. And then it eventually grew into the 7-book series. And I never want to do more than that's there, if you will, or try to stretch it. But 7 really is perfect. And what's great about it is Tom and Sarah are 12 years old in book 1. And then in every book, they grow by 1 year, 13, 14, 15, and onward. So by the end of book 7, which will end in the United States, they'll be 18 years old. And there's something very cool about it. But I also have a lot of older characters in there. So in 55% of our audience are adults globally. Youngest reader 7, oldest readers 93. I'm sorry, 93, and 55% of our reading audience are adults. And this is worldwide. Everything from, I was looking at book sales the other day. Germany, Brazil, Italy. Wow. We actually have a publisher in Jerusalem right now. That's interesting. We're just about to lock in India for major publisher. We got South Korea, Japan. We're already translated into Polish in Poland, all 3 books. And Poland's our beachhead for Eastern Europe. We launched officially in England this year in June. through a distributor, major distributor up in Lancaster, which is kind of cool, up in northern England,
Yeah.
right by Yorkshire, where this whole thing takes place. I mean, just very cool.
Wow.
And so they're rolling out the entire book series now in England. England's our beachhead for Europe, and we've got about 18, 20 other countries and stuff. So it is exciting. It is a huge global push. It is a raising the bar in literature. It is the next generation of this is for the next generation of children. Schools have always been our beachhead, and book one is already one of the most awarded books in children's fiction, which is amazing. And I loved some of those feedback that you get. I mean, the comment from it was a 14-year-old girl, high school student from Virginia, and she just got done reading book 3. And she said, "You're now up there with Lord of the Rings." And I just thought that was really cool. You know what I mean? I mean, coming from her, that means everything, because that's someone that obviously read Lord of the Rings, so she's well read. She's read all the great classics, and to be in that genre, but to not have to do anything, as far as compromising or dark magic or this or that. I mean, everything and anything under the sun, except just write great stories, right? And I love the comment where it says it was a woman, I think she was from Canada, and she said the Britfield series reminds me a lot of James Bond, but with a bigger cast and a greater purpose. And I thought, wow, she just summed the whole thing up in one line.
That's really cool.
Yeah, but real quick, book 2 takes place in France, which is cool. It's Britfield and the Rise of the Lion. Thomas, they're now 13 years old. That's 474 pages. And what's kind of cool about that is it's kind of my Empire Strikes Back. I mean, we definitely go a lot deeper, and that's where we get into a lot of different things that are going on behind the scenes, which is pretty cool. And then book 3 is Britfield and actually, if you're on the website, if you want to go to that.
Sure.
Yeah, Britfield and the this is fun. I love book 3. If you can click on it at the top, Britfield and the Return to the Prince. And it's really cool for anyone that's been kind of following the series. I love this picture, this graphic. Isn't that great? Look at that. Just gorgeous.
Yes,
there's
is.
There's Tom and Sarah. And then it's like, who's that third one? And so we've now brought this third character. I don't want to give anything away for people that are reading the series. This is 575 pages. And it starts in Lucerne, Switzerland. And then the 3 main areas is Florence, Rome, and Venice. And ending in, I don't want to give that away either. And so they're now 14 years old. And what I love about the cover for book 3 is that it's like, book 1's fun with the balloon. You can see it behind me, you know what I mean? And Tom hanging on by a rope. And it's like, who wouldn't be attracted to that? And book 2, where they're, hanging off the Eiffel Tower in France, it's kind of cool. And I always try to use objects that are symbolic to that book so people can be drawn into it, if you will, or know where it's going to be taking place. But you look at this one and it's just like, it doesn't have any of that, but there is something so haunting about it, right? It's just like, all they're doing is standing out in front of this gate, right? And that's actually St. Peter's Basilica behind it. But there's something so just like, that they're going to go in, or they need to go in, but it's like everything is saying, don't go in. You know what I mean? Don't come in here. It's just, I was so thrilled with that. And then if you wanted to go to, this is kind of cool. Some of the scenery. There's Florence, obviously to the left there. Gorgeous. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
And I wasn't planning. I never plan on writing. I don't live to write. I write to live, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And I'm all about story. And we can talk a little bit of that if you want to get into it. Like, what is story and how important it is, and the driver of story. But if you want to click on book 4 too, and this will kind of just end the sort of intro here, a longer. But this is what we're now getting ready to launch in January, and this is Britfield and the Eastern Empire, and it's really cool. There's Tom and Sarah, and there's the third person, and look at Sarah. I mean, she's 15 years old. They're growing up now, and it's pretty cool. There's Tom. He's 15. That's takes place in St. Petersburg, Russia, and that's the Hermitage behind there. And they're actually they have a map there, and they're planning to break in to the Hermitage Museum to steal back a Britfield artifact. It's pretty cool. Probably not good to do, but it's what's fun about these things is like I really have to think the stuff out. I have fun with it, of course, right? But I don't try to suspend reality. I really like how would you do this, and how could you do this, and what would actually make sense, and what would work, and could it work? And it's a lot of fun to do that. I try to make these books as realistic as possible. I do deep research into everything I do. Book 4 is kind of cool because it's a next level in the Britfield series. It's much more sophisticated. Book 4, believe it or not, came in at 437 pages, under book 2. And I introduced 11 different countries. It starts in Vienna, Austria, and ends in Moscow, Russia. And along the way, they go to like Budapest. I'm sorry, they go to Prague, and then Warsaw and Berlin and the Baltic Sea and Budapest and St. Petersburg, Russia. I mean, all these great countries. And how in the world all that was done in 437 pages? And I've had some feedback now because we did a pre-release to fans. I just got done literally signing 500 individual paperback books and shipping them literally across the world. Can you imagine that? Like, wow. I got hit 2 weeks ago with the boxes, and it was just like signing and signing and signing. It's just
wow.
like shipping out. I literally do not have the only book I have right now is it's called A Galley, and if you could see on it, it says not for sale. I don't have a single book left. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
But which is nice.
Chad, that gives me an idea, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you be open to doing some sort of a raffle where someone could win a signed book?
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, I'll get it put together, and we'll open up a raffle, free to enter for anybody watching this or reading about it on our website. And the link will be below wherever you're watching. I'll get that added in, and someone will win a exclusively signed book by the author. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I can do I can do book 1, or I could even do book 4. And in fact, they can choose.
Okay.
What's going to be great though is anyone that's pre-ordering the book right now on the website, they'll get it probably by the end of December, even before it launches, because we got another load of books coming in. So anyway, but yeah, so like you could do a raffle for the for any book they want, or we can do it for book 1 or something like that.
Oh,
so
very cool.
Well,
okay,
yeah,
that's what we'll do. We'll open it up. You'll get to choose if you want book 1 or book 4, and it'll be a very special.
Yeah, book 1, 2, or 3, or 4. I mean, if
cool.
you're new to the series, yeah, I'm more than happy to sign book 1, and if you're familiar with the series but don't have book 3 or 4, I'm happy to do that too. So,
and I've got a question in the chat here. I think we can answer it by this page here, but someone was asking, are they available in audiobook or other formats?
Yeah, so book 1 is done in hardcover, softcover, ebook, of course, and then audiobook. And the audiobook is amazing. It's actually an award-winning Mom's Choice Gold Medal award-winning audiobook, done by award-winning British voice talent Ian Russell. And he does all the voices, and he's done an amazing job. I think it's like 11 and a half hours.
Wow.
Through the whole thing, and it's really cool. So,
well, I was thinking if anybody, a lot of people travel for the holidays, or if you got a road trip coming up, I mean, how great would it be to throw this on it in the car and just listen to it as a family?
Oh, it's great. I've had a lot of parents that have done that, and then like they'll get to their destination, and the kids are like, no. I love that they're so into the story. It's just like, and we will eventually do book 2 and 3 and 4. Part of it is we're in negotiations right now to sell the global audio rights, if you can imagine, and also the global ebook rights. And so it's like, because it's expensive to do it in an audio, but I appreciate the audio. A lot of people love the audio, and I get that, whether they're walking or running or just hanging out or doing whatever they're doing. It's a cool way. I did a lot of that when I was younger, in some of the classics that I just didn't have time to read, if you will.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so that's book 4, and we can talk about that too. I'm very excited about that. I think it's what's interesting about it, and some of the feedback I got. One line, it said, what did it say? I can't remember now, but one comment was that I've never read a book so fast, and I thought that's really interesting. Like I think the person that said it wasn't really realizing how profound that was to me, because it's the style that I'm writing in now, where part of it is the editing process and the structure of the story. I do not waste words. Nothing that doesn't need to be in there per se is in there, and I cut all the fat. I mean, how many times have we been reading a book and it's like yada, 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 right? They get to this part and it's like he walks in the room and the fire's blaring and blah, blah, and he puts off his coat, and they're like putting to sleep with details, or just stuff that has nothing to do with the story, or chit chat. You know what I mean? And I don't do any of that. You know what I mean? And so and we could talk about the editing process too, which might be interesting if you want.
Yeah. What's the general process? I'm sure every author works differently, but how do you do it? You kind of map out the entire story arc, big picture, and then just start breaking it into smaller chunks, or how do you do it?
Yeah, I do. And it's been a process like anything, you know what I mean? When the first one, I was just kind of, I think I outlined it pretty quick with some of the scenes or places I wanted to go, and just started writing. By the time I got to book 4, and I did this also for 3, is I literally outlined every single scene, and it took me 4 months. So basically in 4 months, if you can imagine, I had 4 pages in 4 months of hard work. And so on every page was a bullet point, and that bullet point was a scene. And I might have like a word or two underneath it, a sentence or a general idea. But in that scene, I'd already worked out mentally, if you will, where it is, why it's there, and how it works. Everything was based on the 3-act structure, and it was also based on the format of a movie script with plot point 1, plot point 2, midpoint. And I'm doing something different now where I have plot point 1A, plot point 1B, and I do that same thing. So I've got like, and a plot point's always an immediate twist. I have twists through the whole thing, but it's kind of a big thing. You know what I mean? It's like the person that you're with, you find out they're actually the bad guy. You know what I mean? Or you come out to the car and it's gone and it's been stolen and you got nothing. You know what I mean? Or something. You know what I mean? Like, or you get arrested. You know what I mean? You're just about to make it to where you need to go, and the cops get you and they throw in jail. Like, that's a big twist, because like, what are you going to do now? It's like a big switch. And so I structure it very carefully. And I literally had 84 scenes for book 4, Britfield and the Eastern Empire. By the time I got done, I ended up with about 81 scenes. And so the point is I never really have writer's block, if that makes sense, because I'm never writing. I front load everything, and I do the hard work first. And it's not, and it doesn't take the fun out of it. It's like you and I going on a road trip. I've used this as an example. We're leaving from San Diego. And if you were to sit there and say, Chad, where are we going? I said, no, we got a month off, tank's full. Let's just get in the car and drive. That's a disaster. We have absolutely no direction, right? But if I sit there and say, we've got a month off, we're going to take off from San Diego and let's head to Boston. And it's like, okay, we'll be in Boston in a month. Where do you want to stop along the way? And those are your chapters. Those are the places. And the better you kind of plan that out, and it's like, hey, by Saturday, and we hope to be here, and I'd like to spend a couple hours at this place, and this looks great. It's going to make the journey very full and a lot fuller. Now, along the way, we might think of something else or find something else. And that's, as a writer, as I'm writing this stuff, that's what happens in the process. But so then I sat down. It took me about 18 months. Well, actually, I think it took me about 6 months to write the first draft. And the first draft is about 10 to 20% of the hard work. Great to get it all out on the paper pages. I mean, start to finish, all the lines, all the descriptions, all the dialogue. And then it's the editing process, and it's editing and editing and editing. And I start at the beginning, I come all the way through. That takes about 3 to 4 weeks, and I'll take a break, come back. I come all the way through, and then I get to the paper edit. And the paper edit is very different from the visual edit or the computer edit. Things just read differently and sound differently. And so I only will print 2 pages, maybe 3 pages at a time. I'll sit down, highlighter, a pen, and I'm reading it, manuscript form, as a story. Is there anything I don't like? Anything that doesn't need to be there? Anything that doesn't make sense? Am I being redundant? Am I saying the same thing twice? And I just tightening and tightening and tightening and tightening and tightening to the last draft. And then the last draft, I try to get rid of 1 sentence per page. What absolutely can I get rid of? What doesn't have to be there? And all I'm doing is it's all story, if that makes sense.
Wow.
Every dialogue, it's all story. There's no fluff. There's nothing else. And that's why I myself am still stunned that book 4 with 12 to 15 characters, right? I've got this huge cast of characters now with 3 parallel scenes going on, because there's always kind of Tom and Sarah, and then there's another group over here, another group over there, and 11 countries coming in at 437 pages. Wow. So when that guy said, I've never read a book so fast, it's not because it's easy writing or I'm using big words, I mean, or small words, or I'm using big font, you know what I mean? Or simple sentences. Not at all. I mean, my vocabulary is vast. I mean, I'm on page like 350, and I'm like trying to look for a new word. And I'm like, have I used that word yet? And I'll do a quick word search. And I'm like, oh, I did, but I used it on page 30. Like, the kind of stuff that I put into it, and it's amazing when I'm like, I don't think I've used that word yet. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to use that. So I'm just saying
I love that.
Yeah, it's very rich. But
I just discovered I've got a elementary school daughter, and I found one of my old books that I read when I was her age, and inside the book cover I had written my name, and I wrote 2nd grade. And then I'm looking at the book, and I'm comparing the book to the stuff that they're reading in school now, and it's just the amount of, and I don't want to be critical to teachers or anything, but the amount of dumbing down that we've done in our education system, just from my generation to the next generation. They couldn't read that book that I read in 2nd grade in 4th grade now today.
Wow.
And it's sad. It's sad. So I love that you're raising the bar, not lowering it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's cool. And we've created this almost fanaticism, which is cool. Like, I was like that when in 1977, when Star Wars came out, that movie, I got to admit, that thing rocked my world. I mean, it was just an incredible story, you know what I mean? But it was just like, man, it's like, it just grabbed me. And I'm not even a sci-fi guy. Or like James and the Giant Peach. That was one of my favorite growing up. Loved that book, very visual. I could just see that. And then Charlie and Chocolate Factory. I think that really was Roald Dahl's masterpiece. I've read all his works, reread them recently, just because that's what I do as an author, right?
Sure.
I'm just, why not? And I love history, and I'm reading all kinds of stuff. I got a great biography to recommend too, but that was his masterpiece. It really was. Even just, I mean, we've seen it with my favorite actor, the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Gene Wilder, yeah,
yes,
which was fantastic. Believe it or not, that was not a success when it came out, and the movie was in the red for a while. Go figure. But a great book, a great story. Just creating this world, and so I totally get that. And then Charles Dickens. I'm a huge Dickens fan. I mean, he is a master storyteller, and there are a few people that are like that. They might write great stories, but Dickens was a master storyteller, bringing in a Shakespearean cast of characters that are all sort of very different. Everything from the high-priced lawyer to the politician to the wealthy aristocrat to the orphan, and somehow they're all connected. You know what I mean? And he does this amazing collage of connection at the end. You're like, wow. I just got done with Nicholas Nickleby. That's a great story. But Dickens is it's hard. He's hard to read sometimes. You know what I mean? Because they're paid by the word. You know what I mean? And so you don't get these kind of tight sentences. The story doesn't move. It can drag. I was trying to read David Copperfield again, which is a great story. But kind of drags. You know what I mean? It gets a little redundant. You know what I mean? And but again, master storyteller. Obviously, Lewis, big Lewis fan.
Oh yeah.
Narnia. But again, Narnia, witchcraft, magic. Fantasy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's all bad per se. I'm just saying, again, disconnect from reality. So I don't really know of any other series like the Britfield series per se. I'm not saying they don't exist. I hope they do. And I hope we encourage a lot of other people and writers to, produce just great storytelling, great content, and don't use, in my opinion, magic as an excuse or as a crutch. Because to me, that's a crutch. Oh, there's these magic pebbles, or there's this girl born with special talents or something like that, or magical powers or something like that. And it's just like, to me, it's just a crutch. It's like, write great fiction, write great story right now that people can connect with. That's what we're doing. We're connecting with literally millions of kids through the Britfield series that are reading this, that are connecting to it. You're never going to connect to Harry Potter. Maybe you're an orphan, but you're not going to connect to him because Harry Potter's a witch.
Well, or people do connect to it, and then they're in this bizarre fantasy world that they're trying to make into real life, and we get things like people thinking that they're cats and dogs and furries, and it becomes really unhealthy.
Well, when I'm saying connect with it, I mean really connect with it. But you mean influenced by it? Yes, witchcraft is the fastest growing religion in the world. And it was interesting. I was doing an interview maybe 3 weeks ago. It was kind of deep and profound. We actually got into it a little bit with the covens out there and the growth of witchcraft. And it was, I'll never forget, one woman was saying, she lives in a nice sort of town. I think it was in Iowa, typical nice town. She goes, she watched that town as the Harry Potter series came out, and the transition over 3 to 4 years of almost a darkness, you know what I mean? And what kids were getting into and doing and stuff. And don't think for a minute this stuff doesn't influence them. And which is it's designed to do. That's not by mistake. It's not an accident. None of the stuff's an accident. But anyway, we don't need to talk about that. But
Chad, before I forget, and before we get off the topic of the audiobook, and it's I've got it up on the screen here. People can go to your store to grab that and everything else. I know sometimes it's easier for people to just get stuff on Amazon, so I'll put those links down below too. But one other option, and this is, I just really love that you did this. You sent me this file and you said, hey, if you're willing to post it, please post this on any of your channels. So we did. And let me share this screen here. You put together this, I'll let you tell the story, but it's an audio play with actual 12 and 13-year-old actors doing the audio play with voiceover, basically. And so for another option, if people want to listen to a play version of this, I think we called it a radio broadcast. They can go to my YouTube channel. That's if you're watching this right now, Daily Truth Report. I've also put it on Rumble, if that's easier for people. You can see that right here. But really cool that you're just putting this out there for free. Maybe you can tell the story of what exactly this is, how it came to be, because I just think it's cool all around, the people that you got involved to do it, and then everyone else that can listen to it.
Yeah, I was really thrilled. And so about 2.5 years ago, it's always been about the movies for Britfield. I come from that industry. I was a script writer before I was a novelist. And it's always been about film. And that's just my passion, right? And the visual aspect of it. But someone about 2.5 years ago, someone recommended, said, hey, do you ever think of turning it into a theater play? And again, a theater play specifically for, if you will, middle school and even high school. And again, too, another market that's just saturated with either musicals, and there's nothing wrong with musicals, but in a musical, you're alienating 90% of the kids that just want to be in acting, right? I mean, theater's great. I grew up with some theater, and believe me, I was terrified to be in front of an audience, terrified, but got over it through theater, and especially through improv. It's like, man, you go through a couple months of improv and it's just like, man, it just doesn't matter anymore. You know, it's like, whose line is it anyway? Right.
Yeah. Right.
Situation comedy.
Right.
But it's just a great experience, especially 11, 12-year-olds. You know, you're working on a play, you're working on a story, you're working with others, you're working with different ages, right? It's not, you're not just working with all 12-year-olds, you're working with all these different dynamics, all these different groups, the professionalism of it, you know, showing up, rehearsing, performing it. All of it. And so I'm really just was excited about theater. And so I spent 18 months taking this 384-page book and turning it into a 90-minute 2-act play.
Wow.
And we launched it about 18 months ago over 4 nights at this wonderful middle school up in Mission Viejo, to great success. And there it is. Yeah, that's our group. That's Michelle Shoemaker on the far right, the long hair under the television. And she was very instrumental in helping me do this and put this together. What do I know about plays, right? The first thing she told me, she goes, you cannot have more than 50 to 60 lines for your main actors. And again, like, would I ever think about that, right? But at that age group, right, they can't memorize. I mean, it's like, you know, they can only memorize so much and stuff. Wow. And it's different from a film because it's like, cut, you know what I mean? It's like, you memorize all you want. Wow. And so, yeah, so that's 30 actors. And so it has speaking roles for over 30 actors. It has 28 sound effects, 54 digital slides that you can project on the back of the screen to create this landscape of England, starting in Yorkshire, and then Oxford and Windsor, London, and finally down to Canterbury. We even have a balloon that's on rollers with a basket. It's just so cool. And so, yeah, it just became this huge, if you will, undertaking. And so about 3 months ago, we've been wanting to partner with a group called We the Kids. And they're a nonprofit, and they're really about bringing history, specifically American history, back to kids and getting them involved. And they just have done some really great stuff. They've got a radio broadcast that they do out of Philadelphia on a major station. And I said, yeah, let's partner together and let's sponsor something. And then I thought, well, why don't we do a radio broadcast of the Britfield and Lost Crown play? And so I hired Michelle to do it. And she's at a different school. And she goes, you know what, this is great. She goes, I'm going to turn it into a class, and I'll get some of the theater actors, you know, to participate. We had 17 different actors that were participating in the radio broadcast, and I'll teach them radio broadcasting. Wow. And it's very different. If you can imagine, with theater, it's all, I mean, there's voice fluctuation, all of that. The lines are important, but it's very visual. You know, I come out, I'm dressed, there's scenery, I'm wearing a certain amount of clothes. Radio's all voice. And so it really helps you fine tune your voice, your broadcasting, your emotional range. And plus, with that said, you know, you're not worried about any of that anymore. You're just into the moment, into the scene. And so it was really cool. But it's funny. So about a week into it, she's like, we got a problem, because I sent her the play thinking, just do the play, you know? And she goes, you can't do the play as a radio broadcast, because obviously it's like, I'm describing the staging, but I'm not narrating the staging. Does that make sense? And so I literally had to stop what I was doing. I spent, and I'm busy, right? And I spent 4 days taking the play and turning it into a radio broadcast, literally having to transform the entire thing into a radio broadcast. And it was interesting too, because our movie script, this is a final draft of the Britfield movie script, which is pretty cool, was done. And so I actually was going back to the movie script and bringing in a little bit of the newer dialogue, if you will, a little bit of tighter stuff and stuff. So anyway, long story short, we did it. It was over 6 hours at her school on a Saturday. And these are the kids that are coming in on a Saturday, right? And I brought my friend Noah up there, also Noah. And he worked for Salem Media Group, you know, for 25 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he was up there, and I mean, God bless him, because it's like, you know, he had his little headphones on. We had the mic, we had the whole little thing with the foam, and we had the software, and we were just recording it. You know, the thing is like, you know, we record it, and if they make a mistake, they go edit, and then they'll start again. You know what I mean? Yep. And so we were there for like 6 hours, and then he had the content for 10 days, and I was editing it. And it's funny too, because even I laughed a couple times, because some of the lines are funny, you know, and that little bit of a laugh in the background, Noah would have to say, stop, redo it, or any movement in the chairs. And so with the 17 actors, what you had is like, we couldn't have more than like 3 or 4 in there because I mean, everyone moves or they scratch something and man, that mic picks it up. And so it was quite an experience. And I'm really excited about it. I'm excited that it's out there. I think it's fun to listen to. You can listen to the whole story. We do have some sound effects in there that we run through it and stuff. It's great to listen to it. And you could just be sharing it with the family over Christmas. I mean, we have some other platforms that are going to be broadcasting it. It'll be broadcast in Spain, in Britain, and in Australia. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I love it. So that's if anybody wants to listen to that, you can get the audio of the book. That's different. That we talked about that earlier. You can get that on Chad's website. And what is that? It's just Britfield.com. Or if you want to listen to this, you can stream it for free from YouTube or Rumble. Just find our channel and search for Britfield, and it'll come right up. So that's another good one. If you're got a car ride or something, just pop it in the car and listen to it as a family. So that's cool. All right. So you got the books, you got the plays, and then I think Chad also. Let me share this. So you did your own radio broadcast, but I think you also have the ability. I love getting the idea that we can help get this out there to more places, more schools. Sure. So I think you also have this package on your website where if a school wants to bring this in either as a class or as a production, you kind of give them the whole packet, right?
Oh, it's great. I mean, look at that. I mean, and honestly, that's, I mean, $749 for a school. And if your homeschool group will work with you and stuff, but that's, I mean, normally like Disney's charging for their stuff, it's anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 just because what you're doing is you're licensing it and it's all the other stuff. But I mean, $750, and what you get is you get the director's script, which is walks you through everything with all the cues. And then you have the actor's script, and then you actually have the director's notes. I spent a ton of time on the director's notes, walking you through every single scene and how to stage it, how to set it up, what costumes are needed, sound effects, lighting, all of it. Now, look, as a director, as a creative, you don't have to follow that. You know what I mean? Do what you want. But with that said, we walk you through every single scene and what's needed and everything from props. You're going to need 2 chairs and a table to whatever. And so it's extremely detailed and well mapped out. I think and then we have 28 sound effects, 54 digital slides. We include paperback books, Britfield Lost Ground, so your students can actually read the story. You know what I mean? The play's different. I mean, the play's the story, but it's like a refined thing of it. So it's great. I mean, they can actually be reading Britfield Lost Crown paperback book over the weekends or something, kind of getting prepped for it. They have the whole big picture of the story, and then they have the script. And it really is, it's complete turnkey. It's designed that you can order it now and download everything, and you could be casting it tomorrow, literally.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's a lot of fun. And what's neat about the play too, is it's designed, and look, we did this thing in a black box theater, but meaning it's a very tight, small theater, about 240 seats. And Michelle's like, that's all we've got. And I said, look, if we can pull it off in your black box theater, then we can pull it off anywhere, because it's great. It would be great in a normal auditorium. You know what I mean? And a lot of schools don't necessarily have a theater, but they have their cafeteria with their big stage, right? That's where they do the productions.
Yep.
1,000 times better there, but you can put this thing on anywhere. And what's great is it's designed that the scene, you never stop the story. In some plays, it's like, the lights go down and then they're moving stuff and then they're getting the next thing done. Mm-hmm. We don't do that. You know what I mean? You have your main scene there, and then as that scene ends and the lights go out there, lights come up on the right side, and there's another scene happening there. And then that comes up, and then this is reset, and then there's the next scene there. And that lights come down, and then this is happening here, or right in front of the stage, or along the aisle. Thomas, they're walking up as they're headed somewhere. And the fourth wall is never broken, but we use the entire stage, and it is so cool. You just feel like you're there. That even blew my mind. I heard them talking, you know what I mean? Because that's part of the lines and the dialogue, and they walk right by you, and you're watching the actors as they head up to like London or something. So it's just great. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It's like, it is really cool. So,
all right, that's amazing. So you got the books, you got the audio versions, you've got the radio broadcast, you've got the plays. It's just a shame you can't be a little more productive in life, Chad. I mean,
I'm such a slacker.
Yeah, such a slacker. Well, and so we haven't talked about the last one yet, which is the movies. So
yeah,
I think, when is the first movie coming out? It's soon, right?
No, it's projected to launch, if all goes well, in November 2026.
Oh, okay, all right.
We just came out in November 2024. The script is completely finished, and that is it's funny too, because that is very, very important. Sometimes scripts can take 3 years. You know what I mean? Ours took about 15 months, and it went
Wow.
through 3 or 4 revisions and rewrites. And just as a matter of fact, about a month ago, everything was wrapped in January of this year. We did a read through with 12 actors in March, so 6 adults and 6 children actors, all day, in his big boardroom, and recorded it. The producer was there, myself was there. We're kind of sitting in the back, and we're just reading through it. We're listening to it, stopping it, at certain sections, getting feedback, taking breaks, and then refining it from there. And then, so technically it was done. And then in November of this year, I wanted to return to it one more time, right? 6 months distance, just read through the script again. And what I thought would take me 4 days took me 9 days. And I went from 148 pages to 147 pages. That's how tight the story is.
Wow.
Meaning it's like I didn't lose 10 pages or something. But I was just tweaking things, a line here, line there, just trying to make the whole thing smoother, more sophisticated and stuff. But the script is everything. And not to speak the obvious, but in Hollywood and in filmmaking, it's not always the case. They have an idea. They have the general script. They think the stuff's going to work itself out when you're filming it. It won't. It becomes a nightmare and a disaster. That's why really 98% of all films that have ever been made have failed to make have failed, are box office disasters. Part of it is the agenda recently, but just in general. I think there's something like 140, 150,000 movies that have been made, give or take. How many would you rewatch? Right. I mean, I've got my own library. I probably have about 100.
Right.
Maybe 200. I love the Philadelphia Story, 1940 with Cary Grant and James Stewart. Okay. Classic. Great Escape. Classic. Little Women with Winona Ryder. One of the best films I've ever seen. The Bourne Identity. James Bond, but mostly with Craig. So like that's my diversity. But those are all great films. Those are all great stories, well done, well put together, that I will watch probably once a year. Most of the stuff is unwatchable. It's crap. It's just, and so I say all of that to say that it's like you're going to spend $50 million to build your house. How fine tuned would you want those architectural plans?
Right. Yep.
You know what I mean? I mean, you don't want to get halfway into it and stuff, and all of a sudden you're like, hold on, we can't put a wall here, or we can't remove this wall, or this doesn't work, or Like that's really what a script is. It's our architecture. They're literary architectural plans, and so the script is everything. And the only thing that's going to happen while you're filming is that a scene becomes better, or the actors are into the characters, and the dialogue isn't spot on, which is fine. The improv a little bit, or they don't say the dialogue and they just have a look and they hold it, and you're like, oh, that's so much better than what I wrote. But the story is so tight. Every single scene that needs to be there is there. Again, it's different because it's based on the book, which is already successful, if that makes sense. So it's not like I'm just writing a story or a movie script. But what do you show? What don't you show? What do you put in? What don't you put in? It'll be 2 hours and 10 minutes, maybe 2 hours and 15 as a total running length, which is no problem. I don't think that's a big deal. And it's going to be like nothing you've ever seen. And and I mean that. We've had a hard time. Like, what would we compare the Britfield and Lost Crown live action movie, not animation, live action? What would I compare this to? I mean, National Treasure, a little bit, but not really. Right. But as far as sort of, taking place and things that are going behind the scenes, fun, successful. Night at the Museum, because it's kind of a family movie and stuff, but we don't have dinosaurs that are coming alive. We're not using all that animation. Raiders of the Lost Ark, because that's kind of a fast-paced action adventure and stuff. Yeah, that's cool, but we're not based it in 1938, 1939, right? And so, I mean, this is present time England, and I don't know of any other movies like it. And I do think that we will break box office records. I think you're going to see something hit Hollywood that they never saw coming. And part of it, that's a whole different story. But but anyway, so I'm really excited about it. And let me just kind of say this too. What's so cool about the script is, and once you start reading the story, you'll love the story. It starts up in Yorkshire and stuff, but it's at this orphanage, whether in the orphanage, but the story is not about an orphanage. It's about getting out of the orphanage, and as fast as you can get out of the orphanage. But you have this whole sort of inner working of the orphanage, and we come into it, and within like 1 minute, or 2 minutes, we're at the workshop. Tom gets in trouble. He's taken out inside. It's December, freezing cold. It's northern England. You could hear the wind blowing, and this Speckle, who's the caretaker there, grabs him by the, with his grip, vice-like grip, rips him outside. Stand there for 5 hours, you know what I mean? And Tom's just freezing out there, looking in the window at the workshop, and he's like, I've been here for 6 years, and this is the year I escape. And I love that, because it's like, boom, you know what I mean? It's like we're telling you exactly where this thing's going, and it's like from that moment on, it's how's he getting out of how's he going to break out of there? Because no one has ever broken out of Weatherly Orphanage, and within and it just moves. It goes from the next scene to the next scene to the next scene, very, very fast, filling in some back stuff there. And within 12 minutes of the movie, he's already working with Patrick, who's the oldest and wisest orphan, and they're planning what's called the Great Escape. And all the orphans are involved in it. And so, I mean, like 12 minutes into this movie, and then within 15 minutes, they're already executing it. And by the end of 30 minutes, which is the end of Act 1, plot point 1 hits, Tom and Sarah have escaped from Weatherly. And I have just delivered in that 30 minutes more than 90% of all movies have ever delivered in a lifetime. And you know what? The story is just starting.
That's cool.
I mean, really, and I'm reading it, and I can step outside myself. We hired a professional scriptwriter. It's all about me, but I've been doing some of the rewrites and some of the editing, which is fine, based on, again, 20 years of experience as a scriptwriter. But it's not, he did a good job in sort of outlining stuff and getting some scenes and making stuff work. But it's like just like high octane. I mean, edge of your seat, seeing all this stuff happening. That they're running to this little small hole in this 10-foot rock wall. Mrs. Grievous, who's this vile sort of, creature, woman, with her hair back, and she's got this dog called Wind. It's like a vicious dog, and she unleashes it and goes, go get him, and you got this dog like running after, and running to the hole and trying to scream. And it's just like, whew. And they get out of there in 30 minutes, and it's like, this movie's just started.
Cool.
It's just started. I mean, and as I was reading it, I could just see the kids. I mean, just like just glued, and then they, they're making their way, trying to get to the train station, and they get to the train station, and it's like, it's almost 12 o'clock, and the trains are almost going to stop running, and they're going to try to sneak on one, and all of a sudden, guess who's there? Detective Gowerstone, who's renowned for capturing runaway orphans. And he's like, turns around in this beautiful trench coat, and he's like, hello, Tom. And you know what I mean? And it's like they freak out, and Tom pulls the alarm, the fire alarm, and they run out the side door, and the cops are running after them, and they're in this marsh, and then they see the hot air balloon, and I mean, it's just like it goes and 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 it builds and it builds and it builds, and then there's this whole royal mystery. What's Britfield, and how's Tom connected to Britfield and Britfield and the Lost Crown, and the real dynasty to the British throne that's been usurped by the Stewarts, by the Tudors, by the Stewarts, and then finally by the Windsors, right? And I mean, it's just like, it just goes and it goes and it goes and it goes and it goes. And yet it's so touching, and it's so heartfelt, and it's about family and friendship and courage and sacrifice. And I mean, I do not know its equal in film. So we're excited.
So have you started shooting yet, or when does that start?
No, we are in the pre-production stage now, which means we are now reaching out as of, in the last couple of weeks, we're reaching out to a couple key actors. We're reaching out to another. I already have a producer team, and I've been working with them for about 2 years. But someone that we'd be bringing as a executive producer, huge. I can't mention his name yet. Massive. He's been involved in over $2 billion worth of films.
Wow.
Who I think would be a great fit for this. And we'll be reaching out to a couple of our key directors that are hugely successful directors, known for family action adventure series. Great storytellers, great at working with kids, and one in particular that's great with taking major successful books into adaptation without giving anything away. And so, so it's I'm hoping that we'll be filming in summer or fall of next year in England, and then post production, and then launching it globally in November 2026. So
can't wait.
It can happen pretty quick. I mean, what's great about this is, again, I was thinking about it this morning. I knew we were going to do this interview, but it's all story, if that makes sense. And most movies are relying on other devices. Let's just even take Harry Potter. In and of itself, I mean, semi interesting, I suppose, but it's all the special effects. Right. I mean, that's what they're relying on. And we don't rely on anything. It's all story.
I love that.
I mean? Yeah. It's all words. It's all story. It's all real places. Very easy to stage. right? I mean, it's like half of it's interior shots, the rest of it's exterior. Be fun to get some of these great B-roll shots, in an actual, it could be a helicopter, but a balloon of England, and what Tom and Sarah are seeing as they're flying over in like the thunderstorm, and there'll be a little bit of CGI, in the balloon getting caught in a thunderstorm. Probably won't want to do that for real. Probably won't be shooting in the interior, inside of Windsor Castle, but it will look like it. You know what I mean? But it's relatively it's a very complex story, but it's easy to film, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because it's taking place in present time. If it was like in 1950s, well, crap, costuming, cars, background, accuracy of everything, if you're gonna have a Coca-Cola bottle, it's got to be from 1950. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like all that stuff takes time. It's costly. You get some of these people that like want to do a $3 million movie and it takes place in like World War II, and I'm like, good luck with that. You know what I mean? I mean, geez, dude, you're killing yourself. I mean, it's like, that's what's so great about this. It's all story, and with that said too, we don't need an A-list actor. We've got some good actors that we're looking at, and they'd be perfect. And you'd probably know them, but they're not like the Tom Cruise, Will Smith, whoever. You know what I mean? Because they're not needed. It would almost distract from it, if that makes sense. Most movies need that as that sort of extra balance point or support. Well,
I love that it's all story. I get, maybe I'm unique and this is what people like, but I get so bored by these 12-minute car chase scenes in movies, and it's like, oh, come on, just get over it. I don't need a million explosions and all this stuff. Give me a compelling story.
Yeah, and it is interesting if you think about it. I mean, if you start to think about movies, and it's like, even if you go like with Pixar, and they are the master storytellers. I mean, Toy Story took 4 years as a script. Toy Story, like a movie script, it took 4 years for them to write that.
Right,
4 years. But it's a great story, right? It's not just all the tricks of animation. But with that said, it's the animation, right? I mean, it's amazing. It's like the cowboy hat, and then the other stuff, and the other play tool, all of that. You know what I mean? I mean, that's kind of part of the hook, or the one trick pony, if you will.
That was the hook, but then when you got in there, it was a good story.
Yeah. But with that said, I mean, they are master storytellers. I mean, they follow the 3-act structure. It makes sense. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it's compelling, and there's plot points, and they follow that. But at the end of the day, it's animation, and animation is part of that. Or anything that you're practically seeing now, it's all the sci-fi, it's special effects. I mean, the Avengers, are you kidding me? I don't think there's anything. Do the actors even show up anymore? You know what I mean? Like, it's all CGI. It's all green screen CGI. I mean, it's just, and it's not much of a story, but 1,000 special effects. And
that's boring to me. I don't know. Maybe people, I guess they keep making them because people keep going to them, but I'd rather have an actual story that is compelling.
Yeah, and that's what's great about the series, the Britfield series, and especially book 1. You know what I mean? It's just it's fast paced, it's interesting, it's intriguing, it's just a great story that unfolds and unfolds, and just when you think you know where it's going, you don't. You know what I mean? And it unfolds and it unfolds and it unfolds, and it just keeps building and building and building and building and building to the end, and you're like, oh my gosh, whoa, And in so many ways, by the time the movie ends, it's just started. The story's just started. It's just
that's cool.
So, yeah.
Did I see? I think an email from you, or not you, but from your email list. Are you taking on investors in this movie?
No, it's actually we launched our second capital raise for the Britfield series, for the Britfield dynasty, and that's separate. It's separate, but it is included in some ways. And it's for this. It includes the 7-book series. It includes all merchandise and 5% royalties of the first movie. And so we just launched it, the second campaign this year, probably June of this year, trying to raise 10 million.
Wow.
And that's just on this side. It's not the film. Film's totally separate.
Okay.
But it does include aspects of the film. And what's kind of cool is it's like we're running a special right now. Not a special, but for any particular investors, anywhere from 100,000 to $1 million to all the way up, by the end of December 31st, that if they want to invest now into C shares and actually be a part of the Britfield family, which, hello?
Wow.
I had an investment banker last year say to me that he thinks we could be bigger than Star Wars. And I know that sounds boastful and it sounds big, and I didn't say it, but there are aspects, if you think about it, that damn right that we could be.
Wow.
Because again, and Star Wars is a $68 billion franchise, $1 billion franchise. So to me, it's It's just a smart investment. I mean, if you actually want to be a part of the change that's happening, that's needed in society, we're doing it right now. We're already in thousands of schools across the nation. We've got amazing plans that we can talk about in a minute. What's ahead for us and what are our next steps. But what we're doing for some of the people that come in right now, it's like you can go behind the scenes of the filming of the movie. In some aspects, you can actually have a walk-on part in the film. How cool would that be?
Wow.
Meet the director. I mean, have lunch or dinner with the director and some of the actors. Get a signed. I thought this was kind of cool. Get a signed script, a Britfield Law script.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know my friend who's actually the producer, Mark Joseph of Reagan, the movie with Dennis Quaid. He actually he worked for Walden Media for 5 years, and I think he has like the first or second script of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the original script. And it's kind of funny too, because there's profanity words in the first one.
Oh.
If you can imagine.
Wow.
Yeah, typical Hollywood, right? It's like, let's put profanity words.
Yeah.
And so it kind of makes it a collector's item. But
wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So so we just launched that campaign over the last week.
Wow.
And, it's pretty cool. So let's see. But I mean, if I had the wherewithal or the capital and I wanted to get behind a great project, that was literally having influence, not just nationally, but globally, and specifically in education and children and literature and film and media, what a great way to do it. And it's like a legacy investment too, because you can leave it to your children and grandchildren. And I know for a fact that we'll be putting a lot of kids through college through the other investors, the Britfield series. So.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, there's never been an opportunity. And I make it very clear, I'm not involved in this. I don't get a cut of investments. I just thought it was cool. So I'm not trying to pitch anybody on anything, but I mean, no one ever had a chance to invest in Star Wars or to invest in Dr. Seuss or to invest in any of this stuff. And you can actually invest and be part of it. And that's cool. That's neat. I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah, we're excited. So that's an offer that's out there. So if anyone is watching and that's interested, just contact us through the Britfield.com website and stuff. So
yeah,
great question. Yeah, go ahead.
The best place to contact you or find your stuff is just at Britfield.com. And then you've got, of course, all the contact us info there and the store and the books and everything else. Wow. So you've got your hands full.
Yes.
You're doing the movie coming out 2026. Hopefully, that's obviously going to take a lot of time. But are you also? So book 4 has just came out in book form. Is 5, 6, and 7 have to follow that? Are you working on book 5 at the same time you're working on movie 1?
No, I'm pretty worn out and beat. I'll be honest. It's funny. Book 4 really took it out of me. Like here's book 3, written within the same time frame as book 4, and book 3 is 575 pages. But man, I tell you, and I just think it was the focus on just making it better than anything I've ever written. I spent 3 weeks just on the character development for each actor, and not actor, but each character, doing a little bio on all of them. And again, too, I pretty much know Tom, right? But here I am coming into book 4, and Tom's 15, and I'm like, all right, let's just do a background again, strengths and weaknesses. What does he fear the most? Is there a secret that Tom's keeping? Asking myself these questions and really trying to go deep and writing little bios on them and trying to bring that into the story. So we launch officially book 4 in January 15th of next year, which will be great. So I'm excited. I feel that book 4 is it's the next level, at least for me. It's the next level in literature, and just the way that it's the maturity of it, the intellectual aspect of it, everything about it is amazing. How do you stuff 11 countries into 437 pages, and compromise nothing? You know what I mean? I'm coming into Budapest or something, and I'm describing a little bit of background and history and some of the architecture, and then getting into the story. And we come into Prague, and then we go to Warsaw and Berlin and Baltic Ocean, and it's like I got all these threaded in, layers and characters and subplots and twists and turns. And wow, I had a woman that just read book 4, and she contacted me. She's a friend, and she was reading one scene towards the end in Moscow, between Oliver, I don't want to give anything away, and his mother. And it was so moving that she goes, I was in tears. And it is a moving scene. And it was a scene that had come to me, a while ago, which is cool. I had little nuggets for book 4. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get there, and that was one of them. And I was like even when I was thinking about it, I'd almost get teary-eyed because it's so powerful, right? It's so just. And then we've been threading this whole thing with Sarah, Tom's best friend. And Tom's been an orphan his whole life, right? Sarah grew up in Scotland, in Edinburgh, single child of a very wealthy, affluent family. Their last name is Wallace. And think of Wallace, think of Braveheart. And she was educated at like the best prep school in Scotland, and she speaks 4 languages and just very, and then all of a sudden, like, her parents are killed in an automobile accident. And so she's been at Weatherly for 2 years. So she's sort of newer to this, world of the orphanage and all of that, but she's well educated. But we've been playing this little seed of what happened to her parents. And it's always been this thing that's kind of gnawed at her. Like, the official story just didn't make sense. And in book 4, I expose what happened. And it was just like, it will blow your mind, if you're following the series. I mean, it's like, you're buckle your seatbelts. It's like, there's just like, you're going to read it and go, no way, So it's really cool. And
I love it.
And I don't just have one of these. I've got like tons of these. You know what I mean? They're like most stories or novels. It's like they got this one twist or this surprise ending. It's like, crap, I'm doing that all the way through. I throw everything I have into it in the first third of the book, like all my tricks of the trade, and then I'm like, all right, now what am I going to do? Right? I mean, and so I keep elevating and stuff. So that's pretty cool.
So when do you anticipate book 5 eventually coming out then, for people that are tracking the series and want the next one?
So book 5, which is cool, and the running title right now is Britfield and the Lost Treasure, and that ties a lot into book 4. But it's going to be, it's all about Asia. It starts in South Korea, and then we'll probably go to Japan and parts of Asia. Probably end in Australia, and then book 6 will be in South America, and then book 7 will be in the United States, ending in Boston. I thought was kind of cool.
Very cool. Yeah,
where it all started. I thought that was really cool. And I probably won't start writing or outlining that until March of next year. I'm mentally fatigued right now. So
it's hard, not hard to see why. It's wow. I imagine though, everybody gets fatigued at some point, but I imagine you must be the kind of person that your work usually kind of inspires you and energizes you, I would assume.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because like I know some authors, everyone's different. Their writing styles, how they do it, how they approach it and stuff. I'm a morning person. I start at 7 a.m. every morning. I'm up at 5, but I start at 7 a.m. and I write probably for 4 hours straight and then take a break. Sometimes people come alive at night at 9 p.m. Who knows? And some people have their whole series kind of worked out, if that makes sense.
Right.
I don't. I have no idea what's going to happen yet in book 5. I mean, somewhat in the sense that I know I have a great beginning for it because of how book 4 ended, and it's cool because it's almost coming back full circle to book 1 with this great escape from where they are, and it's like it's where they end up at the end of book 4. Anyone's following the series, it's like it's going to blow your mind, but it's so satisfactory, right? Because it's not the typical at the end everyone gets rescued and blah blah blah. It's just like you're like, what? And yet something that happens between Tom and Sarah is like straight out of Star Wars. It's so cool. But anyway, but no, I've got that, and but I don't have anything else, and I have no idea for book 6 or book 7, if that makes sense. So
well, it's fascinating to me because I'm definitely not as creative as you. I have bursts of creativity and stuff in the stuff that I do, but for someone like you, or to explain to people who don't have that, you don't know where books 5, 6, and 7 are necessarily going right now. Do you just sit down and inspiration hits you, or is it just some people, like while they're in the shower, they got an idea, or they're out running, the ideas come, or what's your source for inspiration?
I think when you start, and you'll procrastinate for a while because once you're in, you can't, and it's just like anything, not just writing, but anything you do, you're either all in or not, it's everything or nothing. And the more time you put in, the better results you'll have. And so I just start the outline, just what I said. I mean, I start to think about the first scene, and then I figure out the second scene and third scene. And I look at all my characters, and I figure out, where are they at, now 6 months later, a year later, how am I going to bring them in? And it is, that's why I said 4 months for 82 scenes. And it's like, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about it, it's a lot, because it's like every scene in there has to be there, that bullet point. And all your other actors have to somehow be where are you going to bring them in, and how do they fit in, and what happens, and
Uh-huh.
all of that. And so that's kind of what it is. It's you start at day one
Huh.
in the first scene, and you just kind of work your way through it, and you have some fun. And it's not to say that I don't have a Word doc where it's like, as I'm working out the first scene, I've got like this idea, or sometimes I'll have a couple lines of dialogue, and so I'll put it on there, of course, or I might have a couple lines of description or something. But it really is all about just figuring out your entire story from start to ending. It's a lot easier too, because the point is like, you might be midway into it and you're like, hold on, this doesn't make sense, or I don't want to go down this route. And it's like, well, then you just wasted like, a week of writing, right? And that's what might happen sometimes. Or you hit that writer's block, they say, you get to this point and go, I don't know what happens next.
Yeah.
Well, I've already worked all that out. So when I start physically writing, and that's when you're sitting down and, you're ready to move. I already know this scene. I know why the scene's there. I just need to fill it all in. And then I already know the next scene. I don't have to sit there and say, what happens after this? It's like, there it is. There's the next scene. There's the third scene, the fourth scene. And that's kind of how it is. Yeah.
Well, it's fascinating to me. Obviously, I'm a writer of a different kind, covering the news, and I can do that all day long, but it would just, I imagine I would get that blank Word document open with the cursor flashing at me. And if I tried to write a creative book, I wouldn't know where to start. So it's kudos to you for being able to do this. It's amazing.
It's a lot of fun though. I mean, we're all born creative. It's not saying everyone's born a creative writer, but we're all born creative, whether it's music or, building a company or anything, painting or anything. But again, it's just like, it's fun. You just have to spend the time, it's thousands and thousands of hours. And I don't say that to discourage someone. I'm just saying it's like, there is that, again, back to even the creative aspect. I mean, a good novel or a good painting or a great composition. I mean, rarely, does it come together within a few hours or a day or a week or a month, but it's the process, right? It's fun. I mean, when you're doing what you love to do, is there any place you'd rather be?
Right.
And how fast does the time go by? You start doing what you're doing at 7, you're like, oh my gosh, it's already 11.
Yes.
Right. And that's just like, that's where you belong, when you're in that zone, and it is, it's like, it's hard work, as anything is. I mean, writing is no different than anything, but it's fun. You know what I mean? And it's rewarding and it's exciting, because even as I'm writing, I'm like, oh my gosh. And you think of something and you're like, whoa. And it's like, that's cool. Or let's do that. And one of my best examples of the process is in book 3, which takes place in Rome. I mean, takes place in Italy, but they're in Rome. And some of the characters, Henry, Kate, and Oliver, are trying to get to Rome to get to Tom and Sarah. And I always wanted to include the Colosseum, of course, right? And I didn't know how I was going to tie it in, but it's Rome, it's the Colosseum, you know what I mean? And so I was trying to get a little bit of that history in there. And so all of a sudden, like, they're coming in at night, Henry's driving, that's Oliver's uncle, and there's roadblocks and everything, and they're hoping that their fake IDs work. They've got fake passports and stuff, and it doesn't. They have to smash through it. And so I'm trying to get them over to the Colosseum, and that was really all I had, right? And so finally they park, because cops are everywhere and it's dangerous to be in the car. And then like, they see the Colosseum. It's night, so it's locked up, it's fenced in, and I'm like, all right, so what's the next step? And I said, well, they'll try to hide in the Colosseum, and so they got to break the snap the chain or pick the lock, and they get in there. And then I'm pulling up pictures of the Colosseum, and I'm like, well, where would they go? And I'm like, all right, so they start to go down, and they start to go down these steps. And I'm like, well, what's in the bottom there? And it's like, well, there's the arena. And I'm like, but what are those tunnels? And then I'm like, well, let's see. And then I'm pulling up all these pictures of tunnels underneath Rome, right? And so like, really, a 1-page scene becomes 7 pages. And and I'm like, where would those tunnels lead? And then how would they finally get out of there? And what if the cops see them go in the tunnel, and then they start to chase them in the tunnel? And all this stuff developed out of just the idea that I knew I wanted to do a scene at the Coliseum. And so I'm saying that's the writing. That's the fun of the writing process. I don't know that stuff. I don't know everything. But you discovered along the way, and it's pretty cool. So,
wow. Our guest today has been Chad Stewart. The World is Britfield. It's eventually a 7-part book series and 7-part movie series, with the first movie coming out hopefully in 2026. Chad, it's been fascinating chatting with you again. Thanks for coming back on the show, and we'll for sure do it again soon in the future. Recharge those batteries and keep rolling, man. You're very inspirational.
Oh, thank you. And no, it's been great. And thank you so much for giving me this time. It's been fun just to talk about Britfield and writing in the series. And thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it.
You bet. Links will be down below for everything. We'll have a link to Chad's website. We'll have Amazon links. We'll have store links with the raffle. Make sure you enter the raffle. Someone will win a signed book by Chad. So that'll be amazing. And enjoy exploring the Britfield world. So Chad, we'll see you next time.
Thank you. All right.
We've discussed supply chain issues, inflation, and made in America for a while. Big box stores stayed open during the pandemic, while small businesses suffered. The wealthiest got richer, while mom and pop shops suffered. What will we do about it? How can we make our voices heard? Let's vote with our dollars. No more shopping at big box stores with cargo ship products. Avoid corporations that harm us with toxic chemicals. PatriotSwitch.com helps us leave big box stores forever. Shop factory direct at family owned, Patriot owned, made in America businesses. PatriotSwitch.com was created for people like us. Have you seen any hurt business owners? PatriotSwitch.com can make a difference. We can shift market share from businesses that don't share our values to family-owned companies. We've discussed supply chain issues, inflation,